I'm going to share what I like about it. First, for me, it's mobile. So I use my Outlook calendar while I'm at work and in the office, but I have it synced to my iPhone, and I live out of my calendar essentially, both professionally and personally. I like the fact that I can categorize the different work-related activities on my calendar, so I color code things, color code them. Um, that's helpful because I'm involved in 4-H stuff and um, ag and natural resource things, along with things like this innovation team. And then scheduling meetings, and specifically, Skype meetings like this, and being able to manage working with teams and being able to schedule events. So that's what I like about it.
This is Cindy. I like those things too, Michael, that it's mobile, that you can color code. I color code according to the type of task. So if I have the main lead teaching role and responsibility, I color code it one way. If it's related to training that I'm taking, it's a different color code. The one thing that I don't like so great about it is that only a limited number of things, appointments, I guess, show up on any one day. They all show up if you click it, but they don't. The boxes are small.
Okay. And is that probably like when you're viewing it from a monthly perspective?
That's correct.
Right? Yeah. So if you look at maybe a week or a day, if you change your view, you could maybe see a
Yes.
little more. Yep.
Yes, and I do that. I just really like to look at the whole big picture. I like the month view, except for the fact that I can only see a few things at a time. But, you work around it. There's options, and that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I like using the month view too. Anybody else?
I don't like, this is Amelia. I don't like Outlook because I can't share it with my husband, and we have a Google Calendar. And so what I've started doing is cross-inviting myself. So like if I set up an event on my Google Calendar, I invite my NDSU person, and if I set up an email or if I set up an event on NDSU, I forward it to my Gmail so that I can have it on both calendars.
Yeah, I noticed you do that, Amelia, and I'm glad you shared that because I have the same problem in trying to share a calendar with my wife, and so I'm going to try having a Google Calendar and then sharing it with my work account.
And I haven't found a way, and if anybody knows how, to auto-invite my work email when I'm in Gmail. But if anybody knows a way, that would be great. Right now, I just enter it in manually as a shared invite.
I'd be interested in knowing anyone who's not using it, why they're not using it.
That's a really good question, and the day got away from me, but I was thinking about, for this group, whoever attended today, having a little poll on the Skype meeting to ask who is using it and who's not. I'm assuming that most people that join this call are likely using it, but again, that's just an assumption.
It's almost a must, don't you think, in extension work that we are recommended to use the Outlook calendar. I am asking this group, though. I use Outlook, of course, because it's what we have. And when I add things to my calendar in my phone, it automatically goes to my meeting requests instead of to my main calendar. So I kept losing things, and then I figured out that's why. Is there a way to change the default? iPhone, anybody?
What was your question again, Dina?
When I add things on my iPhone, because my calendar is obviously what I look at in both places, my phone and my computer, when I add something from my phone, it defaults to like meeting requests instead of the calendar, even though I've added in the calendar. There has to be a default change, and I have looked and can't find it. But then I was finding that when I got to my computer, stuff wasn't on my calendar. Bob is answering my question without talking, apparently.
Dina, I've had the same problem, and I haven't been able to figure it out, or really I just haven't taken the time.
I
Did.
think I might have figured it out. This is Joe. There's when you create an event in your phone, for me it defaults to a calendar called Work Calendar, but that doesn't show up anywhere. So I have to move it to a different calendar called Calendar. And I don't know how those two were created originally, but it's when I put it in the calendar, the one titled Calendar, it shows up in both places. But Work doesn't, and I don't know why.
And Bob, to answer your question, I know this is going to sound really bizarre, but I don't think I'm using an app. I know that's silly that I don't know that, but on my iPhone, which, you know, if you're an iPhone user, it just shows up as calendar. And when you set it up, that's the calendar you have. And it's linked to my Outlook 365 or whatever you want to say. So it's not really a separate app.
Yeah, mine's kind of the same way. I think mine just showed up or will add in the calendar that is with whatever email. Maybe I'm wrong, but I had to like add my NDSU email into my calendar so I could get my Outlook calendar synced to it. So you could have a personal and a work account synced together if you wanted.
Yeah, and I actually have 2 email accounts on my phone, which I had to add both. And I can't see why you couldn't have 2 calendars, but I don't know why I would want to have 2 calendars.
I don't know. Some people like to try to have a personal and work, and I can't keep that straight. I have to have one.
Difference when you're an extension?
Yeah, we try to.
Yeah, so I've experienced all of the above comments. Joe, my calendar, my work calendar comes up on my iPhone as work. And Bob, I've thought about using the Outlook app, but I haven't. So I'll probably actually explore doing that. And Sonia just posted the link to the app.
What kind of phone do you have, Mike, that you don't have? Like I'm a crippled almost because I have an iPhone, and it's like we only think in the I world apparently.
No, I have an iPhone, and I can, I have my work calendar up there, but I have multiple calendars on my phone. And so my work calendar is titled Work, like Joe said, and I haven't looked to when I try to do an event on my calendar if it goes to a work calendar, and then I have to drag it to a different one. But using the Outlook app might just be the easiest solution to be more active on my mobile device. So I really don't have too big of a problem because I pretty much organize everything here at the office, and I don't need to add too many things to my calendar when I'm out and about.
Can you guys hear me, Mike?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure this out as you guys are talking. You can have multiple calendars in your Outlook, so it's possible that if you connected your iPhone, your Apple Calendar, your iPhone calendar with your Outlook account, that some of the default calendars that might be included in there, like having work calendar, personal calendar, or something, which might be something I don't know because I don't use an iPhone regularly, but something that they might have by default, may have gotten copied over to your calendar. So when you look on your computer, in the left-hand column, you should see my calendars. And as Joe was saying, there is one called Calendar. That's the default Outlook calendar. But you might see others as well. I've gotten invitations from other people who use Outlook calendars, and they've invited me to events on their calendars. So I can see their calendars on there. The Myriad Mobile has invited me to things on their calendar. So I could look at the Myriad calendar as well. And so that might be where things are getting mixed up, is that the iPhone calendar has created that work calendar for you. But even if it did, you should be able to see either one on your Outlook, on your computer. If that's not true, Joe or Dina or Michael, let me know.
Yeah, on my Outlook, on my desktop here under calendars, I just have, like you said, the default calendar, and other calendars, I don't have anything. But a lot of my other calendars on my phone are synced to like my Gmail account, or another account I have and not associated with Outlook. And the main problem I have is, like, if I in my calendar, like during a staff meeting, and I want to add an event or an appointment from my phone, I can add it and it says that I've saved it and it's done, but it doesn't come up on my Outlook calendar when I come back to it. I think that's the problem that Dina was having.
So I don't have an Apple device to test that here right
Yeah.
now.
Say, Bob.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
To answer your question, no, I don't see that work calendar in Outlook.
Okay.
It's just that calendar title.
All right.
It's in the settings. I know that. I just can't figure out how to make it stick, because I know how to go in and change it and on the phone so that it goes to a certain calendar. But once I do it for one, it always defaults back to something different, like meeting requests. So the problem is knowing how to change that setting and make that the default. And it's more to do with it is Outlook, I guess, but yeah, it's on my phone settings.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Dina. It's probably your iPhone setting somewhere where you would change that. In the Outlook app, there is a setting for your default calendar as well, and the default setting for that is that calendar one. But if you were managing multiple calendars within Outlook, you could, make one the default for when you add an event in the Outlook app. But it sounds like it'd be different with the iPhone calendar.
Simple solution would be not to use an iPhone.
Or to use the Outlook app on the iPhone.
I'm going to get the app. Okay, so thanks. This was a good discussion. So another example I have, and I mentioned this kind of, is just it makes working in teams easier. And I kind of ask a question and provide an example, because this happens to me all the time. So, how many people have been in a situation, where you're in a room or a staff meeting, you're trying to identify a date where everyone's available, to do a program or whatnot. And it seems like you could be in that room forever trying to find a date that works for everybody. This happens to me all the time in our staff meetings. And eventually I just say, everybody please update your calendar and I'll find a date and time that works. And I feel like that process is way more productive and it reduces a ton of wasted time. But if people don't use their calendars, it makes it extremely difficult to do that. So that's another benefit of using your Outlook calendar. And Becky says we shouldn't have to resort to Doodle either, and that was my next comment. So like Doodle polls are great because I use them for scheduling things with clients or local groups that I work with. However, within Extension, I always encourage colleagues to use Scheduling Assistant. And the most common response that I get is, I don't use my calendar and I don't put personal stuff on it. So it's hard to schedule then. And problem is solved by just using your calendar and using the private setting. And it looks like a little padlock when you are setting up, making a calendar entry, and your personal events will be private. And it's just a way to better work within Outlook and for working within Extension. And then you don't, again, I like to think about the process and the wasted time. So then you don't have to send a doodle poll and wait for everybody to respond. And then essentially you're going to have to go into Outlook Calendar anyways to send out the Skype meeting invite. So it seems like yeah, I agree with Becky.
How do you make things in your calendar private though, Mike? I've never done that.
Yeah, so if you open up your Outlook and open up Calendar, and let's just double click on a date, and this is an event, you're creating an event. At the top in the right, in your banner area, there's a private right above high importance or low importance. It's a little padlock. Yes, I can share my screen. Let's do this. Present desktop. Primary monitor.
I see it over here by the tag, looking too high up and not low enough, but so under where it says categorize. Gotcha.
Okay. Can people see my screen?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Sometimes it takes a bit for...
There it goes.
There it is.
Okay. So right here, this private, mark this item as private so that other people cannot see the details of it. So then in Scheduling Assistant, let's say you guys were trying to set up a meeting with me, and I've got a week blocked off in July that's private. All you would see is that week's blocked off and it says private. So you can't see any details of it.
This is Alicia. One, I think, important comment, though, when you're scheduling things is to make sure, because where it says show as free, busy, out of the office, I think that's an important thing to add in, too, because sometimes I just put things in my calendar to remind myself that this event is coming up, even though I'm not going. And so if you mark yourself free, just so you can have a reminder of what that is, or if you're actually going, put out of the office, or, so people actually know, are you available, or is this just something that you're reminding yourself?
Is there a default on that, Alicia? Good idea.
I think the default is free.
Oh, okay.
So if you just
So if I
add
have a
something and
dentist
don't
appointment,
change,
I should turn it to busy.
yeah, or out of the office, because you're not going to be there.
Yeah, I think Bob's right. At least for me, when I make a new
Yeah,
event,
busy, I don't remember.
it's always busy. But yeah, this is something I've had to get in the habit of using as well. So yeah, since I'm sharing my screen, we were talking about appointment and the Scheduling Assistant here. And I'm in an appointment, so I would have to add people. But if you went into new meeting up here, you could type in the people's email addresses and check out their availability. And then, as Alicia said, this show as, busy, out of office. These are the categories we talked about before. And then private. Okay. Let's see. Any other comments?
This is Becky, and I'm just curious if anybody uses the tasks function in Outlook.
When I remember it's there, I do.
I'm gonna say yes, but probably not very effectively because pretty much everything gets flagged.
Yep. I hear you. I really studied up on it and started using it when I taught it to support staff conference last year, and I loved it. I thought, oh, this is great. This is just what I need. But I'll admit I don't use it like I should. But it has a lot of excellent functionality, and I really like that instead of writing things down on pieces of paper and then losing my piece of paper and everything. So I think it could have a lot of functionality and a lot of usefulness if I would use it appropriately.
The biggest thing I use it for is if I'm scanning through my email, but I'm not really in a situation where I can reply right away. I just want to make sure that there's nothing that needs immediate attention. I'll flag it so I make sure I don't forget it, because if it gets marked on or as read, then sometimes I'll forget to read an email.
That's what I do too, Alicia.
Yeah, I guess I don't use Task at all, but now I'm kind of interested in looking into it.
So how do you get to the tasks? Let's say we don't know.
Yeah, let's.
Underneath all your folders on the left-hand side, there's like an envelope for mail, a square with a bunch of dots for calendar, and then 2 people, and then there's it looks like a clipboard with a check. That's your tasks.
I guess I don't even use that view. If you're in the Mail tab, it shows up on the right-hand side too.
So I presented my screen again. Can folks see?
Yep.
Okay. So for me in Outlook, Tasks is right here, Dina. I've got my mail, my calendar, people, and tasks.
This is really interesting because I remember it used to be off on my right, like what you're talking about. I think it was Alicia that said that. It's off on the right. Somehow I turned that off.
Dina, if you go into your...
There's an option because...
If you go into your...
I don't see it.
In your View tab, there's an option to add the to-do bar, and you can put it wherever you want.
Right here, the to-do bar?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I turned it off at some point, and then, out of sight, out of mind.
And you can also stretch it however wide you want it, so you can make it, and that will make where you view your email box part smaller or bigger too. There's like a little, I don't know, looking 2 parallel lines looking with 2 arrows off of it. I don't know. It's probably a horrible description.
Is it in the task view here, Alicia?
No, if you hit the Mail tab.
Okay.
See, mine's on the right-hand side, so I don't know how you get it there, but like if you're to see that spot in between where the list of your emails are and where you can read the email.
Yep.
You can stretch that to go whichever, as far right or left as you want it to, and so I don't know if you can stretch it from the. You can do that same thing with the taskbar, but yours isn't there.
Okay.
But it shows up on the right. I don't know how to do that. Mine was defaulted that way, so. But there again, like for me, if it's not right in front of my face, then I'm not going to remember to look at it. So.
This would be.
There it is. Yeah.
Task to do right here. So I went up to to-do bar and just turned on my tasks. So under view in my mail, to-do tasks. I'll have to start using tasks.
So you can either type stuff in if you want to use it like a sticky note, or you can flag emails, and it'll show up there.
Okay. Cool. Okay, Cindy has a question related to categorize.
Okay, so is there a way to take, that red category, green category, blue category, and give them a title instead of just red category, blue category, green category?
Yes.
Okay, how?
Yep. Here, let's try this.
Let me find it for you. Just a second.
So if you click all categories, because you want to give them names, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so in your calendar, if you go to categorize in all categories, this is how I did it. You can select your yellow and rename it.
Okay.
Is that
Thank you.
okay?
Is there some way you can filter by category if you flag an email a certain category? Because I tried marking email certain things and then I couldn't like search them that way. Like I want all the green emails to pop up.
Ooh.
Because I don't believe in folders, so I have a big giant mess.
Amelia put in a link over in the conversation box chat pod part for support on renaming color categories. So I wonder if it might be in there.
I'm looking for your answer, Alicia.
Alicia, so you actually categorize your emails too?
No, I am not that organized.
Okay.
I don't actually use categories at all. I basically use it as a highlighter in my calendar so I don't forget things. So, because I don't like the new Outlook. I felt like the older version of Outlook, you could see things easier in your calendar. I feel like everything blends together. I basically right now I just know who the email is from and try to search my inbox that way.
Okay, so this is how you do it if you do categorize your emails. When you're on an email, like when you're on your email tab, if you go up at the top, there's an option to filter email, categorized, and then you can pick which category you want. Go over a little more, Mike, where it says filter email. Other direction. There you go. Categorize. And then you can select what category you want it to be. So that's an easy way to filter things. Like maybe you know that somebody sent you something that was an attachment, but you're not quite sure who sent it to you. You can filter out everything that has an attachment.
Okay. That's good to know.
Thank you, Amelia.
Yep.
This is for the extremely OCD people, apparently. We have to categorize and recategorize.
I know. I wish I
not
had
alone.
categories. I just basically use the yellow to highlight things so I can see it on my calendar.
This has been a great call today. It takes me back to, I'm going to make an analogy here. Mario Brothers. Does anybody remember Mario Brothers?
The video game?
Yeah.
Do, 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 do.
There we go. But anyway, in that game, there were what I always called the invisible bricks. And if you made Mario jump right underneath an invisible brick, it spewed out coins or whatever. Today, I feel like I'm discovering lots of invisible bricks. So thank you, Michael, Amelia, and everybody else that's participating.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. So one more comment I have is, like, how do people feel about receiving these meeting invites? Let's say we send it out to the entire listserv for NDSU Extension. Do you find it, do you notice that it comes up, like you get the email, but if you go to your calendar, you can see there's like a temporary slot on your calendar for that invite. Does that bother anybody, or do you realize that all you have to do is accept it for it to be on your calendar, or you decline it and it will go away? Does that make sense to everyone?
I like it because otherwise you end up like minimizing your mail or the request to go look at your calendar. So I kind of like it that I just then see it in my calendar, then I can see if it works.
Mm-hmm.
I like it too, and then for those of us blues that don't like to offend others, you don't have to send a reply back to the person that sent you the invitation, so you don't have to feel like you're declining them.
Well, yeah, that being said, isn't there a way to send it such that people don't have to?
Yeah, and that's probably a good comment too, because if you're setting up a calendar for a bunch or a meeting like this for a whole bunch of people, you probably don't want 30 emails coming back to you saying that you're attending or not attending.
Yeah, so if you go into calendar and click on new meeting up here in the left, this window pops open, and response options, you just click the request responses off like that. And that's, I think the user still has the option to maybe send, I'm not sure, because I did get one decline response, even though I requested no responses. But this is at least how I understand to do it, to turn off the request responses.
It really is interesting when you're the one inviting everyone to the tech coffee break. You feel a little bit like, wow, there's a lot of people who don't want to come when they all start sending the decline. But I mean, people are busy. It's just funny when I think most of us have had an opportunity to forget that at some point and get flooded with accept and decline notices.
Yeah, so it's just something to remember to come up here and turn the response options off so you don't get responses. And I like getting them, the invites, even if it is an email, an invite for all of Extension, and it's not really related to things I'm working on. But if I'm interested in it, I won't respond to it right away. And that way, when I'm in my calendar, I can see there's this temporary calendar hold, and I can decide later on if I want to accept or decline that. And the reason I ask this is because some people really don't like getting those invites, and so it was good for me to hear that everybody, at least on this call, doesn't mind it, and they know that they have the option to accept or decline it, and that temporary hold will leave their calendar if they decline it. Yeah, Becky says that AgCom can do a Let's Communicate article about this. Yeah. So that's all I've got, unless anybody has any.
I have a question.
Yep.
As long as we're talking calendars and accepting, declining, if someone schedules a meeting and you say accept, and then it's onto your calendar, and then the person scheduling the meeting changes the date, does it automatically go off of your calendar from the first time?
You should get a notification saying it was changed, and it would be moved off of the first time.
Okay. Sometimes I think I end up with extra things on trying to find a time that works. You know what I mean?
I wonder if you have to accept that updated time. And I don't know what happens if you don't. You know, if you have a tentative and the one that you accepted both on your calendar potentially.
I'll just leave it, and if I get on a call and no one's there, I'll go, oh, that was canceled.
So, Dina, my understanding of it is, so if you made the meeting invite and where you can request no responses, there's also, when you check that, you don't allow new times to be proposed. But if you as the meeting organizer change the time, you would go to it in your calendar and open it up and change the time. And I think everybody's right. It would resend out a change of time response to the people that I think have accepted it. You might have to resend to everybody. I'm not sure. But yeah, once they would accept that, I think it would switch on their calendar.
That's what I thought, but every now and then you notice people send those out when you talk about, do you like getting these or do you not like getting them? For the most part, I do, but when it's not a pretty certain time, I don't necessarily like it. Multiple things to try to schedule the same meeting. Like, don't give me 3 separate times to try to figure it out. Does that make sense? It's just, it depends on if a person's having a scheduling.
Yeah, and that's, I think, where we as meeting organizers need to be conscious of that, and use the scheduling assistant, and hope that unless something happens where you absolutely have to change the meeting time, the first meeting you set the time, that's pretty solid. And Becky says she's pretty sure it automatically sends a message when a new time is given. So, if anybody has that happen, you can let us know. Okay. Any other comments, or we were able to spend this whole time on the Outlook calendar topic, and I really appreciate that. It was interesting, and I learned a lot. So, and I hope everybody else did. And some folks are still typing in the chat. So, any other innovation discussions or topics people want to ask questions about or comment on? And Bob says, if you're not already a member, join the NDSI Extension Innovation Facebook group, or NDSU, yeah, Facebook group. Yeah, please do that. And any tips or things you learn that relate to this conversation or other innovation issues or topics, you can post on our Facebook group. And we also have our NDSU Innovation Team webpage. let's see if I can get the link to that. And you can go on there and view the recordings of these tech coffee breaks. And there's the link. Okay. Well, if nobody has any other comments, thank you all for attending. I greatly appreciate it. And I think it was a good conversation, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Thanks, Mike.